Engineer support guys. One of the reasons I came to Engineer was because when I used to run consultancy, sorry, my name's Dr. Nick, that's another slide, I should say that. I work at Engineer. And my job is to thoroughly make sure that we get relevant, interesting questions from you for these people. Now, relevant is obviously, you know, if you want to ask any marketing questions, why we market the way we do. I'm not sure I can help you, because that's not the good people we found. What we've got here is a collection of engineers and support engineers and customer support who are people that you've either, if you're a customer you've been working with, who you're thinking about becoming a customer you're going to be working with. And so it's, instead of you guys asking one-on-one questions, that we don't get enough time to answer thoroughly and after the booth, you get a chance to ask them here. We'll hear other people ask them because you know you're scared. I don't know why you wouldn't just ask a question up to this point. So what I'm going to do is let the individuals from Matt onwards down to the girl. I don't know if your company's got a girl, we've got lots. What? Sorry, Tash and I used to sit next to each other. And I moved away. And now we have a thing. A banter. We don't have a thing. Because she won't let me. And so let me introduce yourselves. That'll give us a framework for the basis of what's a relevant question. You'll figure it out. Basically, if you have a thought in your head, you should ask it. And if I laugh at you, that's not very professional. So, Matt, kick off. What's your name? And what do you do?
I'm Matt Mills. I'm a support engineer.
Alright. John, you're out for the last name. I'm a support engineer.
I'm Tom Mahoney. I'm on what we call Panda Team Engineer. We're basically sales engineering. We access the resources.
Jacob, I'm a developer engineer on the platform. Just released this thing called add-ons. That's good job. That's awesome.
And I'm Tasha, the customer experience team.
So support, sales support, engineering support, and dash. All right. Now I have prepared in advance some questions in case you suck at asking questions. And so what I can do is we can just test whether you have a question, whether you'd like to see my using questions. Alright, so here are some example questions you might like to select from if you don't have any more. What is platform as a service? When we'll be using Engineer? How easy or difficult is it to use Engineer? What can you actually get from support? And just how awesome must it be working with me? Which I'm pretty sure it is, you're going to leave it that way. And I'll answer it. So I put those together. Is there actually, as customers, who is currently a customer? Awesome. Who is here from the New Relic talk and is just feeling frisky and lazy and just thought I'll hang out and find out what's next? Good. And who is thinking of becoming a customer? Who used to be a customer and is just here to bitch about something?
Okay, in the back.
Awesome. Alright, so current customers, questions.
So can we get pretty specific with our questions? Like as far as
Sure.
feature capability?
We need to feel like now.
No, you
No.
Alright, so
if everyone starts falling asleep, what I might say, in politeness, is that's an excellent question to carry on afterwards.
right. Support for multiple certificates per app.
SSL.
What's that?
SSL certs.
Yeah.
We'll soon.
So
So the question is, currently it's support for one SSL certificate for an environment. The question is, can
When
we?
you said app, where did you mean environment?
per environment, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Who wants to take that one?
The problem with that is it's an Amazon limitation. We can only assign one IP to one instance. So basically, there's nothing we can do until.
That's
So-
like the answer.
Although there's a certificate you can get called a UCC cert,
Oh, yeah.
which will allow you to do what you want to do. We have customers who do it, so it's possible, it's just not.
Yeah, and is that something that, like, to take maybe to the next level? Right now, we're on the cloud platform, but do you guys have professional services that would help maybe build that out, or no?
Yeah. There's a bald man walking around Congress, and
He's not here right now.
so he represents the head of professional services. Yes, these things we can build, not
Yeah.
They can figure something out.
Okay.
To mention, we have also managed products, and managed doesn't have its limitations. We have with 12 SSL certificates on one app because they have a lot of customer X, company name, customer Y, right? But that's because we can add tons of IP addresses on managed. There are tricks we can do on cloud, but they tend to be a little bit more fragile than we want.
Right.
And we're working on solutions. So some of our customers get a lot of certificates. They get, startup, whatever.
Yeah.
Or the UCC certificates, which can cover, up to, I think, 1,000 domain names.
Something like that, yeah.
Except it won't do wildcards.
Okay, so we currently do wildcard, but we have our customers who want custom domains for their
we have a couple of
applications,
customers
I
like that.
guess, so, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of customers, and we've either those servers all opened up such that they can manage. So another solution is is using Elastic or load balance TLDs, and then basically you pass through the cost to your customer. So, well, I need one of these is the requirement. One of these customer is
Right.
So it becomes a process, and we're recognized.
Okay, so who do I talk to about managed services, potentially, or also professional?
Tasha,
Okay. Cool.
watch me so I say everything's Tasha. It's a good question. Anyone else want to see if they can ask people a better question?
I got a feel for where people are hosted now. I mean, so some people raise their hands for used to be on engineers, people say they're on engineers. Are you doing it yourself or are you using a platform? What is it? Amazon.
Going directly.
Yeah, I mean that's our biggest competitors.
My question is, what do you guys have instead of having very good?
So what's your life like at the moment?
Not that bad. Our system everyone takes care of that.
Alright, so it's okay, so you spend 60 grand a year on a guy. So unfortunately our starting price is substantially less than 60 grand.
Okay,
Not that, I'm sure he's lovely, and someone should employ him. I'm just not here to make a joke today. Does everyone want to go through the value proposition? Not that I think that phrase, but I just said it out loud.
How long does it take for you to scale your car?
scan it.
Yeah, what do you add? Like days?
No, we can add multiple app servers now at once.
Yeah,
It's 15
add,
minutes.
add both. Put it on the outside.
Your configuration will update everything.
Yeah, it's a lot of math.
The biggest value, actually, I don't know how the support team will speak to them, is the fact that we have 50 engineers, right? We have one guy, and I'm sure he's brilliant, right? But there's no way that he can know the breadth of knowledge that these guys do. They've deployed thousands of applications. So tapping into that.
Mainly I'm looking at auto scaling, configure the app, etc.
2 days is a water. I must admit this.
Do you have failover right now?
Well, sort of.
Well, not that, for your I'll scale.
So what is the easy
Maintaining
aspect?
scale, that's the first.
We have images of the app, of the instances that we want to share. So it's not like a real scale where everything is 15 right now for a transaction. So our client is not that critical. So they should be happy with that. But auto scaling is something that we are looking at. We're looking at these stuff. So I think we did configure it supposedly right, but it can be
a second product, third product, which we have another product called Orchestra, which has one of those cool features is auto scale. And it's, we have interesting conversations around what are the triggering mechanisms. So it's well known as non-trivial, because every app behaves differently. This is one of the interesting aspects of platforms as a service, is you want to have a standard homogeneous platform, whereas you've got completely non-homogeneous application authors saying, here, see how this one goes. Try my app, at not scale and then at scale. And at scale is where everything goes wrong at once. You fix one thing, it's like, oh, excellent, let's talk about another following. Your app will This is super important. This is what I'm saying. I think it's, I like being an employee. The one thing I take advantage of is learning a tremendous amount of things that used to scare me a lot, like anything running on Unix. There's just so much to know, and let alone to be common, let alone to know in the emergency. This is where we really get expertise.
So just to answer your question from a customer perspective, I was doing it all previously myself, and it's just taking the systems part of it away from me as a developer. So I don't really have to worry too much about the systems aspect and or paying someone full-time for that. It's automated all. The cool thing is I can get on IRC if I have an issue, like late at night, 2 a.m. and work with someone. It's been a pretty good experience for me so far, just from automating the whole systems aspect, high availability, configuring all the different aspects of the system itself. So it's been nice from that perspective.
I used to be customer director with a company. I liked it. There was a whole range of functionality that I could have access as far as the dashboard. Well, they hadn't done it like that. It's like, all right, I need new box. And now you're going to A, they're not going to do it straight away, not do something else. Or worse, they're not going to do it. And it was nice having that sort of information.
You guys have on capacity planning tools what have
Yeah, I mean, you can always open up professional services engagement. You want us to go in and observe how your applications are maybe there's all these recommendations about what's going to happen. But actually, following your skin because it's always a bigger question than it sounds from the first one.
I mean, what we will do though is if you're having issues with your application, you can talk to us and support guys. I mean, we'll go into the route, we'll basically tell you what the problem is. That's just one problem. I mean, we might we won't tell you how to change code, but we'll tell you where it is that are kind of
Because these problems are going to possibly be real code, possibly be in app configuration, possibly nuances in Amazon, based on the instance types you might be using. You might have lower network I/O, which isn't very well advertised. So if you have an I/O problem, you have to determine if you've got an I/O problem versus something else. And then you might say, well, I think it's instance types that people can care I/O.
Speaking of Amazon, but we actually have a relationship with Amazon. I mean, we can escalate things that will actually be the most.
Yeah.
I mean, when we submit a ticket to Amazon, it's like 4 hours maybe for a high priority ticket. I mean, we have not. What do you make of that? I mean,
Yes, it's nice. We get to go and see them quarterly. They come down to us and we go and see them. Hopefully it's more regularly now that Amazon's decided to start paying California state tax. They might start paying California. Start ignoring it like a foreign country. It's really great to just have a conversation to talk about, well, this is what our customers are trying to do, achieve, and the product is either good, bad, or different. So they've come out now 64-bit businesses for everything, which is something that lasts for a very long time. Because it's one of those nuances. When new customer comes in, they probably start with the cheaper options of things. Because you don't know what you want, when you start at the bottom. Unfortunately, at the bottom, there's 32-bit instances. They're called smalls and mediums. And the downside of that is that when it comes to scaling up to 64-bit instances, it's not as easy, there's not as many things that you can do because your data is different. There's a whole bunch of things that we have. So we're looking forward to the moving process. We can do everything about customers' automation. if you'd like to come off the panel. Anyway, actual customer, which is in this slide. Matt, you're off. No, there was another question.
Yeah. Are you done answering that? I didn't mean to jump in. So is there a way? So I'm thinking of moving to NPR, and I'm wondering if there's like a way to estimate how many of your resources I should be using, and how much will it cost me.
So what we do in that case normally is just recommend, well, based on what you're doing now, right? Like if you're on Amazon now,
Yeah.
that's a pretty easy discussion, right? We just say copy that over to you, right? But if you haven't launched it before, you don't know what kind of schedule you get. You start out with a basic production cluster,
Okay.
which is 2 application servers and a dedicated database. And you see if you're utilizing too many resources or not enough, right? That's a discussion that we ask this question all the time, right? How many resources do I need?
There's a couple of, as another, at least one other perspective of how much is, even if your app immediately only needed a single small, app instance, we make recommendations, but that's not what you choose still, because the cloud is a cloudy place full of thunderstorms, which you can't automatically fail over something else unless that thing already exists. So having multiple app instances allows for some failover. I personally prefer that. Make sure that you've got at least, if you're in, for example, now US East has 5 availability zones. That's a pretty good number of instances. We'll spread them out across the availability zones to make sure that you prevent yourself from having a bunch of bad things happen to you. I mean, it's very popular. I call it social disasters when the infrastructure player goes out and everyone socially has a problem together. Amazon's down. Let's have a party. Your business doesn't have to. Your business shouldn't have to go down with everyone else. There's things you can do. So yes, how much do you need is one question. What's other safe things you should have as part of your environment? And then there's in a staging environment as part of testing changes, both app changes, configuration changes before is something that I would highly recommend.
So we're talking about perspective right now, right? Like how do we approach this problem? And I'm wondering whether on your website you have this information up that I can go look up and be informed. I guess I don't, for example, if I go stick, I say I need the smallest instance and I go stick with a 32-bit instance. And then I realize that, well, it's not really working out well for me, and like moving from a 32-bit instance to a 64-bit instance is not as simple as I thought, suppose. I don't know how difficult that is. I just don't want to be locked up in some situation and would like to make a more informed decision about how to look at the perspective to look at the resources you have, the right perspective. And wondering whether the way to do it is like this discussion with you guys, or whether you have some page online. I know that you have like this page online that estimates the price with the instances, and one of the things is like I can replicate what I have right now directly and come up with some price, but moving to you guys would just like I could add support and stuff and sleep much better at night. And so like I think what I'm saying is, do you have something online that will help me make more informed decisions?
Well, I think in a nutshell.
That's short, by the way.
Director support.
No, that's your answer. Sorry, yes, Sean. In case you just know what it is.
I think one thing to just maybe panel. Official panel.
Matt, you're off.
I would say just deploy. Just deploy to a single instance and take a look and work with it. The beauty of the whole thing is you point your repo to it, you pick out if there's anything special that you might need to do, but just deploy to a single instance. And
basically just jump in and like
just fire it up. That's the beauty. You get 500 hours for free.
Okay.
Just deploy to an instance and then go from there. And
awesome.
The nice thing about it is once you actually
That changes.
well, there's also another thing that you can do. With an instance, you got the Apache bench or whatnot, you can throw some simulated traffic at it.
Awesome.
depending on how much access you have to your print environment, like if you can SSH set up for your maintenance window, but you can use something like EM proxy to send a copy of your request to another server. You have your live server running, and you can have another server running that gets a copy of it, it drops all the responsive reports. But we've done that with one or two customers, there's most likely to do a professional service. But they're going, well, we're switching from MySQL to Postgres. We want to see if there's going to be anything impact from the environment, it's the database, scroll, copy of your data, see a new relic, is it going faster or slower? Our solution like that, which is why it's not a simple, this is what you need. It's one of those, we kind of have to play around with it as developers to say, is this faster or slower?
Great.
A lot of times it's real world testing that gives you the answer.
Yeah, that helps. Basically, to have real world testing done without having to send it to the real world and then realize that
if we've had thousands and thousands of actual real apps, get steady smooth traffic. If it was really possible to say, they all behave the same way, we can now actually consolidate across, we would. But they're all different, and they're different from deployment to deployment. I think we've all seen one commit lead to performance regression, where it behaved at 200 milliseconds and it blew out to 400, 500 milliseconds, a whole second, 2 seconds. Like, this is awesome. It's probably not, it's something that the entire stack that changed. And you have to go back to either commits, or did you change, do an upgrade of the environment, and you have to try and keep track of all, go back. So even if we can come up with a nice page, your app changes from day to day. And one of the things we do as developers is try to optimize and figure out what are the things that our users are doing most often, we have to make them more performant. And that's DevOps, right? That's taking responsibility all the way through watching you think about new production, back up, and giving you a better lifestyle.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, so just to address one of the other questions you had, first of all, our documentation is pretty substantial. So when it comes to just getting to understand what the platform is and how it works, that's a great place to start. It will also let you know what your options are and what the pros and the cons of those options are, so that you understand, hey, if I go with the small now, this is what could happen down the line, so you're aware of it. But you can always just call us up. Just give me a call, explain to me what your situation is, and we can walk you through, okay, here's the best practices recommendation, here are the pros and cons of that, and then here are your other options, here are the pros and cons of those. So you can always have a conversation with us too. Great, thank you.
I have a question. So I have a customer that they're doing a lot of their own hosting right now, and they're using good technologies and they're some smart guys running the machine. But they want to be more efficient, so I recommend they move things to the cloud. And but their challenge is that they've got some stuff that they're never going to move to the cloud. It needs to be integrated. So you can look at virtual private cloud kind of things. But I'm just wondering if you guys have any ideas or best practices around how would you set up the integration between the cloud hosted stuff that you guys run and the backend services and stuff that they can continue to maintain themselves?
Yeah. Well, first question for you is what is the barrier for them when they think cloud is a private cloud still an option for them? I mean, we have two different cloud products that we have.
Okay.
So I mean,
yeah, I don't be interested in that.
The
I think they'd rather not. It is just offload DevOps. They're not a development organization. They're trying for.
In regards to the equipment that they have now, I mean, is it in a data center somewhere that they own the paper for the equipment, or is it still outsourced?
No, it's their own.
I mean, there's a couple of different things. I mean, one is we've actually written support contracts for people against their own equipment, or against their own deployment. It's kind of edge case. We want to get in, understand the logistics of what we're dealing with. We also, within our staff, made those recommendations, so we have to have kind of an intimate knowledge of what we're getting into in regards to that. But then, furthermore, I mean, we do have clients clients that have a VPN column, some specific resource somewhere else, third-party service, or something like that. So they are able to make clicks attached to certain things like that, so that they have a database that they just don't want to let go of somewhere private and have their own security against it. And we do have a VPN service that can put a contract around and you can access that.
So great. Bring this chair. I'll bring. Just come. All right. Stand up for a second. Don't make that.
I very much prefer to be in the shadows, so can I get ready here?
Everyone, Sean, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sean Irvin, Director of Support.
Happy guy. Yes.
So I'm not sure if this is the context for this discussion. I'm a little less interested in some of the customer-facing stuff you guys are doing, a little more interested in actually how you're doing it. Is anyone qualified to talk a little bit more about how internally this guy? I'm kind of interested in the idea that I understand you guys are, you have a lot of clients, so obviously you're using configurations that have a high degree of similarity, but then they're going to be deploying different applications on an instance basis, right? So you guys managing the broad configurations with something like Chef to spool up those baseline instances, and then where are you kind of cutting off and saying Chef goes this far, but then that last mile of actual application deployment logic is done how?
Well, there's what Chef does, which is configure your system, set up MySQL, set up Nginx, etc. And then there's deploying your app, which is, so there's two steps on our platform for getting something running, right? You configure it, run Chef, and then you run a deploy, which is another tool that we have that does deploys. And then you could, depending on what you want to do, customize that. I mean, the things you can do in our CLI and our dashboard will like populate what's called DNA, which is like this giant blob of data about the configuration that you want, and that's like input to Chef. So if you change what SSL server you want, it'll put everything, right? But then if you wanted to do something special with your deployment that isn't configurable in our interfaces, you have custom Chef, which is you can write your own Chef recipes that run after the main run that could modify something. You have key files, which can support hates. Which is where you go and manually change something and say, Chef, I'm going to write this. You have deploy notes, which you can actually run Chef in your deploy notes, which is what we do for some of our apps. So you can, instead of running custom recipes with your main run, you can run special recipes when you deploy your app. And that's how we set up recipe.
With deploy notes. Yeah,
And Nick is passionate about deploy notes.
I love deploy notes. You can do anything. I mean, some of my customers say, well, how do we use modern Chef? Looking so at for use of version Chef. Deploy notes. You start your own Chef process. Run Chef. You can run Puppet. You can run anything. So the hooks are there, and I do have a couple of pending blog posts just on trying to promote a few other ideas of what else we can do. There's very few limitations.
So how is that Chef? I assume you guys are just doing the classic Chef server, client server.
It's not really Chef server, it's just Chef client building.
You're just solo and running on each?
Yeah, Chef solo runs on each instance, and we maintain different stacks of versions of the notebooks. And if you're a little customer on Rails 2 something and you can't handle the Ruby gems, then you run another stack. Otherwise, we have your releases and you have a button to say, okay, update, you can see what's changing that release.
So that's going to be my other question is when you guys have an older customer or whatever, and then say you update, like say maybe you're not changing a Ruby version, but okay, glitching one of the recipes. Are you guys only pushing those changes when someone deploys?
Okay, you only get the new changes when you ask for them. So you can choose to run Chef again, which is called apply, which will keep you on the release that you have, or you can upgrade which will run the latest release. And we encourage people that if you see something scary in their log, or if you've been bitten in the past or whatever, people will clone their environment and then upgrade that. And then
so that's kind of a user space to manage that piece where you say, okay, well maybe we tweak the recipe for Ruby 1.9 and 3, but like, you know, it's your decision as the user, are you gonna apply that or not based on your.
Right, I mean, it's not like you get to decide which things you want. You really only have a linear progression. You want to go forward, you want to stay where you are.
This upgrade button, I think we're just feature.
Yes, I understand that.
Right. So what you can do is you can press that. So what we no longer continually operate your environment. So what you can do is you come back and go, okay, so here's all the things that have changed since I last pressed it. Doesn't teach you not upgrading more often. Makes for a tremendous demo though, doesn't it?
Right, that's a release stacked up.
So,
Yeah, so it's, you're taking all recipes and crushing them down into one
Right.
change log here, and then showing that to you.
And that's the upgrade of ours. Then there's your own chef recipes, which you've probably been maintaining independently. If you use the engine gem, then there's UI recipes which have the uploading zone and you Chef Solo run, which runs after hours, which is why you sort of need to keep control to if we make a change in files, which will never change.
our Ruby is limited to Ruby, so we have our own version. We used to run that. If you want to make your own Ruby, that's completely independent.
Right. So are you guys just curious, are you using Chef Solo just because you thought that was easier because you don't want to keep changing the client's environment all the time, or are you doing that because of scalability issues with the server, which I'm sort of kind of what was that?
Engine was using Chef at the same time Chef was being picked.
So
we are one of the first production users of Chef.
Okay.
As such, Chef Solo made, I think Ezra from the Powers built Chef Solo. Built and created the concept of Chef Solo for our purpose. We didn't see the need for Chef Server when we had our own automation. So one thing I was going to sort of show was, okay, so you've got, this is the dashboard if you've not seen it, there's configuration you can change, there's more environment options you can change, and when you're going to be doing Chef, you write your own Chef, all these attributes are available to you for your own recipes, how many instances, etc. And there's lots of recent really good documentation in here about deploy hooks and your own custom Chef recipes of what contains in it. What we call DNA. So yeah, I mean, we had our own terminologies coming on at the same time as ops code didn't exist as a thing that we were it was we were helping them build Chef at the same time we were using it for our own automation. So they went off in their direction, we went off sort of with ours. Here is the set of deploy hooks. Throughout the process of deployment, you can basically Ruby code into those. Which, as we sort of look at one of the things we use internally, is taking the full wide rate and saying, right, this is the perfect good time to go and run some more shit. And now you've got a harmonious deployment process. I kind of like that one.
For those of you doing DIY, do you have Chef using configure your servers?
We use Chef. We actually wound up, it's interesting, totally coincidentally, and we really similar process that we're using Chef Solo, and we bring up server SSH into it, inject a bunch of cookbook data, or use cookbook, bundle up on S3, inject it in a configuration file, run Chef Solo, and that.
Yeah, well, you download Parchment.
Yeah, that's what upload does. Uploads tables and sticks on S3, and then essentially we have a process called enzyme which triggers the down there and pulls it down.
Using Chef with Chef Server.
And if this, as a bonus tip, since you're all here, you feel like you should see something special that no one else has ever seen. In all modest environments, what's it called? Yeah, okay, so there's the environment name. So SSH environment. So whilst you can SSH environment, as I sort of say, we don't recommend you actually change things to the environment. Because the environment is, the instances are cloudy, they come and go. Using something like Chef or the Blue Hooks allows you to maintain an item universe and guarantee behavior the way you expect it to. Which Martin had released the CLI update to make this a lot bigger. There is also another way to get access to your instances, SSH here. And once you're on them, you can change it to root. I'm only going to do this. That's bad practice. I won't do it with my customers. And but there is a file called in etc/chef/DNA. that is your big JSON blob. Should you wish to seal the attributes? Scissors. Anyway, here's an example. If you can see there. Right. Stop. Yeah. Right. Stop. This is looking at the screen at this point. So that's lots of good stuff. And as you see, actually, your environment has access to a version of its AWS credentials. One thing you may or may not know is each of your account engineer accounts matches one-to-one with Amazon. So you are safe and protected. So it's okay for us to give you Amazon credentials. So you can go in there and feel be scared, but nonetheless you can at least poke around. There are things we don't let you do with credentials and protect for your own health and safety and food. So this is a big blob of things. A little fun tool, if you ever want to have fun tools, this is a tool called JSON. This is basically allows you to parse big blobs of JSON. Teach you not changing sudo. Alright, okay. I'm just going to change sudo. Etc. Chef. DNA. And you decide to explore it. Is it an engineer? So basically these things are path. So yeah, you can see the what we want to monitoring. Start to pull values out. Just explore it and find your way around.
Do you plan to support like reserving instances from Amazon?
For customers?
Yeah.
We can plan supporting. We're always open to taking requests. Is that something you like?
It makes economical sense. Yeah.
I think everything we have is 99% reserved instances. We only include.
I don't think we tell customers that.
That's good enough.
We keep running out of them. Because it's only, and so we keep, at some point we are buying regular ones because we just broke with that. Right? Amazon was in shock at how big the cloud costs were in shock. So yeah. So that's one of the reasons why when Amazon raised their pricing last, we didn't, and when they lowered it, we did. Like our price was in shock. So I think we do pretty good. Our
So what you, just to make sure I understand, what you're asking is, could we give you a support contract for your deployment and your own Amazon?
No, it's basically, the pricing of the service is,
I think actually talking to Celebrate because very good customers, whatever conversation is. If you want to make long-run commitments,
yeah, that's what I'm doing.
right, then we can have that conversation. So it doesn't have to match what Amazon does. Like we tell you that we're running on top of Amazon because it allows you to know a little bit more about the universe.
Okay.
That doesn't mean customers should go and look at the pricing model and go, well, hang on, why doesn't my price change?
No,
We try to do a few
I
things.
understand that, but if you can provide, like a long-term commitment to, certain type of environment, then, maybe it works for both of us.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's basically a sales conversation, so if you like open up the sales,
I mean, I think what Amazon did is interesting in that they said, yes, we'll have, prepaid plans, and you have to pay up front. And people said, oh, okay, that's not just a discount, that's like, and you have to pay for the discount. So I think it's amazing. Go for it.
It's fun when you get an out of capacity error for.
Yeah. Reserved is kind of overstating the definition of what they are.
So I've used Heroku in the past, and it doesn't quite that work here, but I figured I'd ask, how do you guys see yourself differentiating Heroku going forward?
Love her.
So Heroku is a multi-tenant infrastructure everywhere. With engineering feature of dedicated resources. And actually, there's a point in time where, without the pricing question, engineering becomes much more economically sound than anything. I don't know if it's that.
It's already doing this for like $9. And also it's $35. But
differentiate. I mean, so they like to differentiate themselves by saying we're a polyglot. We have all these languages. How many languages do we really use, right? And if you are going to deploy a specific language, wouldn't you want support behind that? You know, expertise in that that language, especially where it works. So that's what we have right now. We have experts in Ruby and Rails, especially deployments.
Just show everything Dr. Nick just did, you wouldn't be able to do on Heroku.
Well, with PHP, with the other things that we do, our customization and support. So with the custom chef, do whatever you want, and then our support is there to help you make it work. So 24/7, if your app goes down, like, we're on it. Then if you take a premium support with the SLA, it's 15 minutes. Usually it's less than that.
I think they provide tremendous service to the bottom end of the market. Or to that, it's bottom in that negative sense. What I mean is, you've got an app and you want to get it on. Right? Think back, whether you go to Linode or Slice Host, you can get a $20 instance in your app up. And they said, well, that's unnecessary, we've got a better way to do it. I think it's wonderful that they built that service.
I think, Heroku gives you a nice box that when you're first deploying, when you're starting out, right, you install the Heroku gem and it kind of sets a whole bunch of stuff for you. But then when you start to grow and scale, if any of those choices they make don't fit you, it's kind of, well, you don't have a choice. Here, you start off with, I think we're still on MySQL 5.0 by default, the 5.5 is available, we're making it default to, we have Postgres available, some people want Mongo, so you can switch it out, you can use MongoDB, you can use Mongo. We'll let you do up utility instances, which are just basically blank server. So copy your code on there, but there's no web server running on it, no database running on it. People use that for delayed job, backup job, rescue, solar, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So if you want to do full text search, a lot of customers, they want to have sync up. Well, Heroku, you can't launch sync. Right? There's some add-ons you can do and third-party stuff. And I'll wonder about if you have your search engine, on another server on another cloud, what's the latency going to be like? Well, here you can have everything in an environment. It's all in the same thing, DMG.
It's also a point of that company, if you, I think it's great to have the option to use add-on partners while we do it. I think there's a lot of add-ons that you want to have access to. The platform doesn't specialize in. The question you have to ask each time you pick one is if that company decides not to be in business anymore. There was a buy from PaaS that decided not to be in business anymore. What is your story? But I don't think that's much interesting for me as a customer for the scenario of, okay, Mr. PaaS, when do I get off here? Right? Yes, it'll be fun for a while, and then I'll go look my days. Is that the reality? And I believe that the whole thing that we spend a lot of effort on development is pushing the boundaries of what your customer experiences challenges. How far can you keep it? How expensive is it necessary? And the ultimate challenge we have is the hard part of the business proposition is to keep you as a customer forever. We don't want you to think that this is like a short-term relationship. We're in business to do business. That's what I'd like to just achieve.
I think one of the interesting things about that for me, coming out of early or late 90s virtualization and data centers, we thought it was cool to put full servers on one box. Kind of mentality is I think where, first of all, we love Heroku. I think there's sometimes when we built this sense of like being guard against Heroku. We love Heroku. We've worked with them since the beginning of the company's start. I think where we really found kind of some of the success of PaaS is when we've been able to take large private data center environments and actually massive. Yeah, where we've taken private data center Well, I did more than straight into massive scale.
You guys have PSRs that come in and do a full evaluation and help map out their process?
It bolts out wherever it is.
In fact, one of the, I mean, they're just over about a 3-year period, we worked with a particular customer that had a massive data center deployment. So I think they were in the 90 to 100 server capacity with straight PaaS. Some customization, but enough that it could be actually, completely torn down and redeployed.
Would a good first step to making that transition smooth be to convert everything I started that process?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think there are key things that you'll have to consider. One of the big ones might be the way you deal with shared storage. How are you doing email? There's some key questions that we'd ask and have to make modifications, but you have to just make some application changes, just because you have the luxury of certain things.
The shared storage is a fascinating one on the flip side of our Rails customer base, our PHP customer base. There are brand new apps being created today that are still based around shared storage. Because they just take Drupal and they start an app. I'll think wherever I then they have in their heart the assumption there is a file system available wherever I am. That's not very cloudy, right? That's where the Terramite, the lead cloud product is. The UI management on side is wonderful that you can have that. But these things like Drupal or whatever need to be really stop happening. Some of these core tenants that are flawed, cloud environment. No, I guess, if you start using Chef, at least you start to say, I can automate some of this stuff. But ultimately, I start, a bit like we were talking about before, bring the app over, figure out what's left. Because otherwise you might over-automate things that you don't use. The large group of people up there was an orchestrated attempt to tell you when the session was over. Very expensive, and some. You appreciate the production value you bring. So, I appreciate all the questions so far, and if these gentlemen and ladies, actually the lady isn't wearing a t-shirt, but us, come and ask questions all the time, take people aside. Your business is not just an app, right? Rails app is not the be-all and end-all of everything. Right? Being business is, and the app is just a portion. How it runs, whether you get to sleep at night, whether you get to play with your children, whether you get to, whether your job is pleasant, whether your job gets to be a successful company or a company that stalls, trips over its own need to not get here. So take the time to, this is why we brought these guys in. They said yes, quite overly enthusiastically, quite frankly. Do you guys want to come to RailsConf? Yes! So they're here, so it's a great opportunity to find them and just buy them beers, buy me beers, and then